Hey guys, this is IX with RolloutReviews doing another casual S.H.Figuarts unboxing. This time it is Kamen Rider Ghost Ore Damashii. Yes, it is that time of year again when the main rider of the current Kamen Rider series gets their S.H.Figuarts release. And this, of course, is the base form of Ghost. This is the first run release that comes with a little bonus, and instead of coming in its own little package off to the side like last year's Type Speed Max Flare tire, this time it's actually packed in the box, which is interesting. I assume later runs of this figure won't have this sticker on the front, and they won't include an extra little baggie inside. So that's kind of an interesting way of doing it. Of course, you have like the Ghost logo in the corner. I do think it's interesting that the product image on the front here isn't painted entirely. It's missing some blue on the horn there. Got a pose on the side and a couple poses at the back, of course. Just looking inside, it does seem like the horn isn't quite attached all the way. Hopefully I can just plug that in once I have it open. Also, everything inside does seem a little bit shaky, the extra hood here and the Gun saber. It is obviously the smaller version of packaging, like we saw last year with the Kamen Rider Drive releases and a lot of like the Star Wars releases. Just most of the figures that don't come with a whole lot of accessories are now in these smaller boxes, and I like them. I think they're fine. Sure, they don't match some of the older Figuarts boxes if you display them with the boxes, but they're economical, they're pretty compact, and I do like them. So anyway, with all of that said, let's finally get to opening this guy. So, cut right in, and we'll see what's inside. So, first things first, we've got a little instruction booklet here. Basically just shows how to swap the modes of the Gun saber. Only 2 modes, not the total 4, but that's fine. You get the gun and the sword here. Shows how to attach Yurusen to the little stand. That, of course, is the first run bonus. You get a little Yurusen, which is fun. Shows how to swap the hood and shows all of the other hands. So that is nice. I don't usually show off those instruction pamphlets in the reviews themselves. And then you have an advert for Boost Damashii here, as well as his bike, Musashi, and Spectre there. So that is nice as well. I do remember Type Speed last year came with like this very fancy booklet showing off the S.H.Figuarts Trideron. So that was kind of cool, but nothing so high class here. Slide this out here. Anything else inside? Does not seem like it. So let me get the box out of the way. Okay, so we have this very incognito black bag here, which I am assuming is Yurusen. So let me actually open that first before we take a look at the figure itself here. Just peel the tape off and set this off to the side for just a moment while I open this up. I do believe there is some thin, translucent plastic in this thing, so I don't want to be too rough with it in case I actually accidentally snap something, but how is this working here? It's taped and folded in half, but okay, so here's the rod of the stand, and then at the bottom we got a little base, and then... Hello? Are you there? There you are. There is an adorable little Yurusen. I am part of the group that chooses to refer to Yurusen as a girl, because the voice actor is a girl, so that's how I see it, but I guess technically they're just a genderless little ghost. How do I get this thing open? Come on, this is being difficult. I want my little sassy ghost. I want my little sassy sidekick friend. Gimme, gimme, gimme. I joked about when this was announced as the first run bonus, how I was pre-ordering S.H.Figuarts Yurusen with first run bonus Kamen Rider Ghost. But there you go. There's little Yurusen looking all adorable. Slightly, I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I do think the proportions are slightly deformed. Maybe the head looks a little bit bigger than it should. But I absolutely love this little thing. Does the head move at all? I don't want to force it or anything. It's fine if it doesn't. You got a ball joint up here, so you can kind of move them around and say sassy little things at your Figuarts Ghost, I guess. Very similar sort of to the S.H.Figuarts Ankh in a way, where it's just kind of a little supernatural sidekick friend that floats alongside. But anyway, there is that. I'll come back to her once I've got Ore out of the box. So, let's get to that. Top little section here comes off. We open up the sarcophagus, and here is the figure. It's actually got a nice amount of heft to it, just because of the extra mass from the jacket. Let's see if we could sort out this horn situation. Yep, okay, yeah, I just needed to sort of plug it in all the way, so that is not too big of a deal there. You do have a little bit of plastic right here, between what I'm assuming is the waist and the driver, although that might be a little difficult to yank out. Oh, it's actually like between the two waist sections. Yeah. Okay, hopefully I got all of that, but I don't know, I'll just leave it for now. I'll worry about getting the rest of it later if there is some excess plastic beneath the jacket or something. You also have a little sticky bit here between the handle of the ghost driver and the jacket itself, just to sort of protect the paint job, which is appreciated. So let's set that off to the side too. And there is Ghost. So I've actually heard a lot of complaints about the articulation on this guy. Yeah, I don't know. Let's find out. Like, the head seems to have a decent range, and it actually does seem like the neck has a substantial amount of thickness to it, like sort of the Shinkochu Seiho figures, which is sort of nice. I really do like the detail on this. You got the compound effect on his face rather than his eyes, which is kind of a cool design element of Ore. You have the chest piece here, which is that like yeah, it does have like a translucent piece of plastic over the top here, accurate to the suit design, so that is very, very cool. What about the ghost driver? Does that open or anything? Does the handle move? Doesn't seem like the handle moves. That's solidly in place, but I have seen a picture or two of the front of the ghost driver, the little rubber cover on the front coming off, revealing all of the spooky mouth detailing underneath. So that's kind of cool. Of course, you have the Ore icon in there. The arms are sort of hindered by these sleeves here, just due to the nature of the design. I mean, this is something I expected right off the bat, just because of how hindering a coat can be on an action figure. Of course, you're also pretty limited in the waist, too. This figure does return back to sort of the pull-out style of legs, and a lot of people really dislike that. I've never had a problem with them. The only problem I do have with this has nothing to do with the range of articulation or anything. It's just that when you bring the leg up, sometimes this section, like the groin section, kind of digs into the thigh, causing some scratches, so you have to look out for that. But otherwise, I mean, I think it's fine. Yeah, the ball joint could sort of get loose over time, but just stick some floor polish in there and that would be okay, I imagine. It does seem to have like a ball joint attachment here instead of just a normal swivel, so you got that extra little movement there. The knees bend the full amount. I think the the ankles might be hindered just because of the shoe design, the boot design. I always think it's funny, the shoe design of Ore kind of just look like sneakers in a way. Sort of weird. Here is the back. You, of course, have the hood. But speaking of the hood, let's take a look at the accessories. First, for hands, all you've got are the fists equipped on him right now, but you have just sort of splayed out hands, which are extremely similar to Type Speed's hands from last year. If I can get this out, geez, come on. What is my damage? There we go. Yeah, the pose, very, very similar. I mean, they have the same suit actor, so I guess that's not a whole lot of surprise. But yeah, just some generic sort of splayed out hands. And then, of course, some holding hands for the Gangun Saber. So let me get a right hand out here. I would have liked to see, oh, that was actually very, very satisfying. Like it's a very nice tolerance replacing these hands. Sometimes that's hit or miss on Figuart. Sometimes it's a little bit more scary than others, but that was nice. That was very, very easy. But anyway, what was I saying? I do wish that he came with a pair of hands that had sort of his like triangle Hisatsu hand pose thing he does. And judging by the little promo thing here, it looks like Boost comes with a pair of those. And then I think Musashi also comes with a pair of those, but Ore does not, and that's kind of unexcusable. I guess if you get Musashi, you can switch those black hands out on Ore and pose him with those, but that's like some Agito level shenanigans with the parts distribution. Putting that in a Damashii web exclusive like Musashi, I don't like that. But anyway, here's the Gangun Saber. We should probably take a look at that. Some nice details, some nice translucent plastics as well, and it does transform into the gun mode. I think, let's see if I can pull this apart without too many problems. Is there a special way of doing it, I wonder? No, it just unplugs here, simply enough. And then this section bends like that, and you plug it back together, and there you got a gun. I don't really understand why they weren't able to also give us the Naginata form. It seems pretty easy, but you can see it's solidly molded at the bottom. There isn't any hole or anything. Maybe we'll get the Naginata form with like a future release, but I understand why they didn't do the Musashi double-bladed form, because the handle would be massive here. The only reason it works on the DX toy is because of the smaller proportions. But speaking of proportion, I do think that when you flip this around and turn it into a gun, the gun is awfully big on this toy, because it does mass shift in the show and becomes a lot smaller when it uses it, well, in the gun mode. But let's actually put it back into the sword mode, because that's what I plan on having him posed with here. So that goes on there like that. And let's see if we can get it into his hand simply enough here. Yep, pretty easy. It does have a trigger finger molded in case you do want to, pose it with the gun mode. Let's see, it does look a little bit awkward for the sword, and there's no way you can really slide it up to sort of conform with the rounded edge here. Unfortunately, I was sort of hoping you could do that. But anyway, there you go. There you got that. You can do sort of the eye contact thing if you want to as well. Another thing I just noticed is like the belt probably really hinders waist articulation too, just because of the sides of the jacket here running into how big this thing is. But regardless, I mean, the articulation is definitely a step down from some recent Figuarts in, of course, recent years. But that was a little redundant. But he looks great. He's got the same level of detail that Figuarts have, that we're used to Figuarts having at least. So I'm happy with the way this guy looks, if nothing else. And I don't really plan on having him in two crazy poses up on my shelf. Like I said, that extra pair of hands for his getting ready for his rider kick would have been nice, but oh well. Oh well. I guess I'll have to make do with the Gangun Saber or playing around with Yurusen or something up on my shelf. Anyway, he does have the hood here as well, which you can remove the folded down hood here, which is actually very, very simple to do. There's just a peg here, and it does seem like there's also a peg. Can I even show this here? There is like a peg at the bottom of... or the top of the hood, rather, and a little panel that comes off the top of his head. So let's see if I can get this out without too much problem. I just cut my nails, so I might have to do a quick cut here. Alright, that was simpler than I thought. You actually should probably approach it from the top, I think, because that was rather easy, even without fingernails, but that just comes off. Make sure you don't lose that, because that is a tiny, tiny piece. And then this sort of just, I think, plugs into the top of the head here. It actually doesn't plug into the back port here at all. That's just for the folded down hood here. Which makes sense because that means you can move his head when you have the hood up. So let's see if I can plug this on. Gonna have to line that up. But yeah, there you go. There is Ore with the hood up. I guess sort of representing him just after transformation, or I guess in the Drive summer movie where he shows up and he kind of has his hood up the whole time, even though in series... he always puts it down for Ore form because, like, symbolism, I guess. But let's get a little bit of a closer look at this guy. And then I'm going to do one last cut here, get some comparisons in, and end this off with some final thoughts. Something I discovered over the break is that the pin lines on his armor and the translucent plastic in his helmet are fluorescent. So if you shine a black light on this figure, he will actually glow. And that is very cool. I am so glad the designers took that into consideration. Unfortunately, I don't actually own a proper blacklight myself, so I can't really show this off very well. The only reason I figured this out is because I got curious, and I have this sonic screwdriver with a UV tip, and I shined it on the lines, and in person, they're actually glowing pretty well, but it is not showing up on camera, so I apologize for that. Maybe by the time I get around to doing a final review on this figure, I'll have invested in an actual UV lamp, but until then I figure I should at least mention it. Another thing I discovered is that when I shake this guy, there's something rattling around inside, which is strange. And one more thing concerning those complaints I'd heard about lack of articulation and some of the limitations this figure has. After having played with it for a short little while here, I can't really say I agree, because I was able to get a surprising amount of range out of this guy. Like, I didn't have any problems with the neck or the ankles, and once you learn how everything works, despite the whole sleeve situation, you can get a whole lot of movement out of his shoulders. Way more than you could with even Drive, which I think is kind of funny, but also really unexpected. Kind of a happy surprise, I guess. Also, in the waist, while you can't really get a whole lot of rotation given the sides of the jacket, I think it's acceptable, especially since I don't think the suit in show actually has that much torso movement anyway. Like, I could get some decent crunch and some acceptable movement in the waist. So, I don't really know. I think some of the complaints I'd heard were a little bit unwarranted. Another thing about this figure is it just feels really solid. Like, it's got a decent heft to it. all of the joints are comfortably tight, and all of the materials just feel really quality. And that's refreshing because I felt last year type speed was maybe a little bit finicky, and the year before Gaim sort of felt delicate to me. And it's nice to have this figure that just feels really solid in the hand. So overall, my first impressions right now are pretty positive. Oh yeah, I also said I'd do a comparison. So here he is next to the aforementioned Gaim and Drive, and these guys look fantastic side by side. Like, seriously, the mainline Figuarts have been pretty good for the past few years. But until my more formal, thought-out review where I take a more in-depth look at all of the finer details and everything this figure is capable of, that's gonna just about do it. And don't worry, that review will happen eventually. I've got a lot on my plate right now. Of course, until then, that is about it, guys, and this is IX Roll at IX, signing off.